in, and just welcome to what is the first actual video of our new series that we're starting that's called Your Turn. And kind of our hope and goal with Your Turn is to invite just different guests to this video series to share kind of their perspective with their certain role as to kind of what's going on in the world right now. And obviously a lot of us are impacted in different ways. And together with the various guests that we'll have here, we'll just gain some good perspective on how they see things happening. So whether it's some local pastors, healthcare professionals, financial experts, and of course today's guest as well will have a great perspective. We're just really curious to hear how it's going for them. And also we would want to invite you into this conversation as well. So any Facebook comments or questions you have during this time would be welcomed, and we may have time to answer some of those at the end. But first off, I'm going to introduce our first guest to this video. And we have Congressman Jack Bergman. So Congressman Bergman, appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. I know you're in DC right now, so it's probably a hectic day. We had a little bit of technical difficulty to get started, but again, thanks for joining us on our first video here today.
Hey, Tyler, great to be with you. This is really spectacular. We're all learning in this new environment to get better with our technology, even such, shall we say, grandpas like me.
Yeah. So yeah, you speak on grandpa. So Congressman Bergman, first tell us about kind of your family. Where is home for you in the UP, and maybe what life experiences now brought you to where you're at right now.
Okay, well, number one, thanks. This kind of event and the communications with all your students and their families make my day. They energize me. Simple directions to my wife and my home in the Upper Peninsula. Go to the Mackinac Bridge, cross it, take a left and head west on US 2 and drive 5.5 hours. And you're within literally 5 minutes of our house at that point. So it's a long way from Traverse City area, but it's a beautiful drive across the country. My dad was born and raised in the Western Upper Peninsula in Ironwood. He left there at the age of 17, no work for young men and women. His parents, unfortunately, had passed away. But anyway, I was born and raised in a little farm town south of Minnesota where my dad settled when he found work and met my mom. But I came back to the Upper Peninsula literally 40 years ago, found the land that I ended up buying and building my home on in Watersmeet in 1980. And because of my chosen adult life jobs, I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time there. I was a pilot for Northwest Airlines based in Detroit for 20 some years. I was on active duty in the reserve of the Marine Corps back and forth for a total of 40 years, retired finally in 2009. And is a personal, I was raised in a family where my mother said, and my dad too, especially my mom, don't talk about yourself, talk about others. Extol the virtues and the values of others. Don't make it about you. But I'm the highest ranking combat veteran ever elected to the United States Congress in the history of the country. All that means is I've had a chance to see a lot in life, to experience a lot of crisis situations, to work with some of the most spectacular people in the world, in the United States military, all branches, and a chance to lead. And I guess the most, I'm full of fun facts. Of course, as my wife says, you're not funny. Don't try to be funny. Don't tell any jokes. So I won't tell you any jokes. But I love being a grandfather. Our oldest grandsons, one in California and one in Chicago, are unfortunately have both had their high school graduations canceled.
Oh, bummer.
For this year. But they will be graduating. So where we are in our life, we've got 10 grandkids, ages 18 down to 11, and basically 6 boys, 4 girls. But why I got involved after retiring in being elected to Congress, I thought we could do better as a country. I've been raised in a family where service, to be a servant, first to your God, your family, your country, was part of my family DNA. So when the opportunity came to run for Congress 4 years ago, I put my hat in the ring and got elected because I believe we can do better here in DC, and I can be an example for you all your students, all my kids, grandkids, and everybody else's for that matter, of what it means to put country and service of others before your own personal needs. So that's the why I decided to do this. And I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot, and it's kind of tough to pull old wool over my eyes, although my grandkids try to trick me all the time. But we do that out of fun because, come on, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's shooting baskets, catching ground balls, or Mad Libs, or all the things we do with words. Our family loves words, and one of our favorite games is dictionary, and I'll tell you about that at a later time. It's a real simple game. All you need is a dictionary, a couple of pencils, and a pad of paper.
There you go. Sounds great. Are you able to stay in good connection with them during this time through technology?
I am. Yeah. One of the challenges we have in the Western UP is if I want a really good video signal, I have to drive about 30 minutes into town so I can get a good signal for FaceTime or Skype or Zoom now or whatever. And that's one of the challenges we have around the district in a lot of places is our broadband connectivity, especially now when kids are doing their schoolwork at home or people are working from home, running their businesses. Downloads are usually pretty good, but the uploads where we live are really poor. And that's one of the big issues that I've been working on since I first got here at the Congress is rural broadband connectivity.
Yeah, which was part of the reason too. We had to wait, to schedule this until you were in DC to make sure we had, a good video streaming for that too. So yeah for sure.
But the bottom line is all the squirrels and the birds and the deer and the muskrats and the otters that I watch every day, they don't really care if there's internet connectivity.
Yeah, that's a beautiful view, I'm sure, every day then. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've appreciated the last couple of years is our freshman students being able to take a DC trip during our winter week in January or February. And you've been gracious enough to host them and kind of show them around a little bit. And I'm going to, I guess, pop up, got a couple pictures here. This is the one from this past year. There you are with the group of freshman students there. And then I got the one from last year, which is just a neat picture as well of when they were in your office and you're sitting there eating pizza together and the kids are just smiling, having a great time. So yeah, just can you speak a little bit about kind of how that's gone for you, having the students there and maybe other student groups that you have? What's your aim or goal and what you want to show them, and maybe what's your deep hope that they see from experiencing kind of Washington, D.C.?
Let me give you a couple of perspectives. One, my personal perspective, when I was the age of your students, I absolutely loved school.
Yeah.
Everything about it is at the age of 14, 15, 16, we're all growing. We're in a kind of crazy stage in life where so much is new and we're trying to establish ourselves. I loved every aspect of school. I loved the learning. I played in the band. I played sports. But by the way, I ran for student council and didn't win. So, but the point is participating in school, being with not only the students and my friends at my own age, but also the teachers I had. They just were great. And there was not a subject that I had that I didn't love. So the point is, now as the students come out here to Washington, D.C., I view their time here. You've made the effort to come to Washington, D.C. It's up to me to be that if you will, that teacher, that mentor, that person who can explain to all of you what it's like really to serve in my role. And so usually when we do that, we have great discussions. And by the way, I love pizza. So anytime we can have pizza, that's a good thing. But the picture, the first picture that you showed there was right outside the chamber of the house where we vote. And I remember when we went over there to see the house in action. That's for me to be able to show that off. I want to create in the minds, especially of all the young boys and girls, the students who come here, a sense of curiosity, a sense of really wonderment of how blessed we are to have been born and live in the United States of America, and what that means, and just help them, in their developmental stage to, most importantly, ask questions.
Yeah.
Ping their curiosity.
Yeah. Great. And yeah, I mean, can we plan on coming again next year too?
Anytime.
Perfect. We'll be there.
Bye.
So let's, I guess let's move a little bit more into kind of some current topics. Obviously, right now, we're in a much different state than we would have imagined, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. Everybody's changing the structures that we're in. School obviously looks very different. Your work, you weren't expecting to be maybe talking about these things right now. But when did you start to realize the potential impact that COVID-19 would have on the United States, within Michigan specifically? When did those conversations start? Kind of backtracking a little bit, and what were those conversations like at that time?
You'll find, by the way, that my answers at my age and with my experience are very direct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't beat around the bush. I don't give political answers. I'll just give you as I see it. And my sense of curiosity that I talked about a few minutes ago began as a young boy, and it has never slowed down even to this age. So every day I read about world events, I read about trends, I read about state and local and US. So my situational awareness is I believe my sense is very fine-tuned. So I was watching what was going on in China long before the COVID virus ever occurred.
Mm-hmm.
My military background of especially about probably before 9/11, but 25 years ago, we as the United States began to look at the potential for a chemical or biological attack or incident where bad people could do bad things biologically, not dropping any bomb or anything, or not even doing any cyber stuff. It was literally biology and chemicals, for an example. So I followed trends, and what it was concerning and still is concerning to me as a world partner. People expect us to be fully open, us as the United States, to tell people the truth, to give them accurate information about what's going on in our country. So if you're living in Israel or China or Argentina or wherever in the world, you know that what the United States is telling you is true. Mm-hmm. If we've got a problem, we own up to it. That's not so in other parts of the world. The reason we do that is we're a free country. People are free to speak their minds without fear of someone coming and arresting them or doing something bad to them. Well, so we've been, again, it's a long way of saying I've been watching, in this particular case, the spread of the virus for long before it even became public knowledge.
Sure.
So where we are today is that, and I believe that number one, you've heard the term used by President Trump a couple of months ago. It's an invisible enemy. Well, any kind of sickness is invisible until it becomes visible. Mm-hmm. It happens. So how do we plan for it? The vice president said probably at least 30, 45 days ago, I thought his words were, this will be, the federal government's role is to support the effort to keep Americans safe, to keep them informed, to create the, if you will, the working relationship with industry and the private sector who will actually do the science to create the vaccines, to create the tests, to do all of those protocols. That's what we do. So that's the federal government's role. And of course, we've injected some money into the economy to make sure that those folks who unfortunately are short-term out of work can pay their bills, and companies can, be ready to open up when they're available.
Yeah.
The states, every state manages that federal response, that support in a different way. We might do one thing in Michigan, California might do something else, Texas, et cetera. But where the rubber really meets the road, where you all in Traverse City and everybody else, all of these plans have to be locally executed. So that we might do one thing in Traverse City where we might do something different in Marquette, or Sioux or Detroit or whatever. That's the responsibility of the local officials and the local citizens to safe and responsible behavior in anything. Think about it. And it's, I don't want to get into comparisons here, but think about, the good news is spring is here. Yeah. But some of us are already thinking about when fall's coming, and that means the next snow season. And in the fall, we have new drivers. You might have some of your new drivers have their driver's license next winter. And guess what? The parents are going to say, I know you've got your driver's license, but you've never driven in snow. Yeah. So here are your restrictions until you have some experience. Take that out of that example and then put it into what we're talking about here, the personal responsibility we have. Okay, social distancing, 6 feet apart, if that's what it is for now, because this airborne and all of this kind of spread, personal hygiene, that should be just part of your life. Yeah. Whether there's a virus or not, it's just personal habits. And that comes from the family telling the children, hey, here's what we do. So I guess that's a very long way of saying, this is not my first rodeo when it comes to emergency response, disaster relief, humanitarian assistance. That's what I did largely in my Marine Corps career, outside of occasionally being in what we call a kinetic fight, to protect the United States interests. But what we did and still do as the military is we task organize. What's the mission? Where are we going? What do we need? Who are we trying to help? What are the outcomes? But the most important thing we do is after we've completed our mission is we go back and do what's called an after action lessons learned. And we really tear apart what we did, what occurred, what changed, so that the next time we have to do it, we are just that much better at what we do. And I think that's where we can really, as a country, both federally, but especially at the state level, to understand what it means to be a leader and responsibility at the state level and then at the local levels for whether you're a local sheriff, whether you're a healthcare provider, whether you're a teacher, whatever it happens to be. Because the number one responsibility of any elected leader is to keep, and these basically the governors, the president, the county officials, the city officials, is to keep your residents safe and secure while allowing them to live their lives that are guaranteed by our constitutional rights.
Yeah, definitely been a good, test of a lot of leadership skills in all facets, as you said, with national, local, state leaders, different schools, businesses. I mean, everybody's kind of risen to a leadership role right now, I think, too.
Yeah, and think about how easy life would be if everyone just took, number one, started with faith in God, believe that, that number one, we are here by God's grace, make no mistake about it, and then took responsibility for our actions and lived a life of love and caring and praise of others and thankful to the Lord and those type of activities. Think about how uncomplicated in a lot of ways and good life would be. Yeah. But we are human beings.
Yeah. Something called sin inside us, right?
Absolutely. We're born with it. We'll die with it. The question is, what do we do in the middle?
That's right. Yep. Our response is the key part there. Congressman, what have you seen over the last couple of months, just as different conversations have happened with some of your peers there? What has been encouraging to see in the work, whether it was, coming together on something, but what have been some of the main things that have been most encouraging or that you're most proud to see happening during this time?
I have, and it's what I'm about to say, it's tough to find in the media. I have seen people working together in ways, Democrats, Republicans, doesn't make any difference, but people working together towards common goals to ensure that the decisions we make here in Washington, D.C. Are appropriate for the general American public. Tough decisions, but putting any kind of personal differences or ideologies behind them. I see that every day. And I do a lot. I mean, every day I couldn't count the number of bipartisan, if you will, as you call it. I just call it events with friends and acquaintances.
Yeah.
And how does an acquaintance become a friend? Pure and simple, you invest the time to get to know them. Don't tell them about you. Ask them about themselves.
Yeah. That's great. So any specific, so what specifically are you in DC for right now? I mean, obviously you had to just go out there. Was it yesterday you got to DC then?
I got here night before last.
Okay.
We're having a vote today on two things. The last two times I've been here, it's been to vote on money coming from the federal government to small businesses, to individuals, to enable them to get through this tough time when a lot of people can't work and a lot of people can't open their restaurants or open their stores or whatever it happens to be. So it was to come here to debate and discuss what end up being called the CARES legislation to enable people and small businesses to still be financially solvent until they can get back to work.
Yeah.
This time we're out here to, unfortunately, to vote on another version of CARES that unfortunately does not reflect bipartisan work. And it's a bill we're going to vote on today. That's one thing we're going to vote on. And another thing we're going to vote on is called proxy voting, which would allow, let's say that I was here and several of my colleagues did not want to come back because they were whatever it is. So they could give me their vote and I would vote for them. And that's what we're talking about today. And in fact, I testified yesterday before the House Rules Committee on my belief that it is the wrong answer, because when our founders put the country together, they expected the members of the elected members of the House of Representatives to come to DC to debate. Now, someone says, well, we've got to do this, we got to do that, we got to change. Great. Let's do the social distancing. We got plenty of rooms here big enough to do our business. So I'm not voting in support of either of these issues, because I believe, number one, procedurally, the first one violates the Constitution and our responsibility as representatives to work here in DC. Socially distanced, fine. Don't care. We can do it, but we need to do it here in DC. And the second one does not reflect fiscal responsibility for the Americans who need help. It's a grab bag of political wish list items that have nothing to do with COVID-19. They have nothing to do with helping America get back on its feet and people get out and about again.
So what would you say has been, of things that have passed, been, I guess, one of the you see as one of the more important items? Is it the PPP that has allowed, small businesses to get those funds for this time? I really do. The short answer is yes. We needed to get money directly from the federal government right into the hands of the people, not spread through bureaucracies, state bureaucracies, county bureaucracies to, maybe pay off bad debt because the money in the state hadn't been managed appropriately. I was very proud to vote yes on those first two CARE bills, because the Paycheck Protection Program, by the way, that's not been easy for me to say, that PPP, it's easier to say that.
Well, and everybody's also saying PPE,
Yeah, then you got PPE and PPP, and so it's an alliteration, and it doesn't roll right off my tongue. One of the things I loved if I could take one class in high school that I did not, I was just too busy, couldn't do it all, I would have taken debate. But I was so busy studying other things. One of my favorites was geography and geometry. Those are two of my favorite subjects. I love to read. I still read. I probably read 3 books a week.
So what's your book right now you're reading?
I'm reading, it's a pretty heavy book. It's called The Righteous Mind, and it's about moral psychology. But I just finished a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I've read all of his books, Talking to Strangers.
Okay.
How do we communicate? I'm always into how can we all get better, especially how can I get better to be better at what I do. It's just kind of how my parents raised me.
Yeah.
Do better. Don't talk about yourself. Talk about others.
I think one last question that we have here before we look at maybe some others that others have submitted. You mentioned you're there right now, voting on a couple things. What work do you see still remains, or work that the federal government would have to continue to support Americans at this time?
Yeah, there's two things. Number one, what we have to do, and it's kind of a reasoning for voting no on this current wish list package that is not good thinking, is that we at the federal government level need to assess the results of the monies and the policies and the procedures that we've put into place. Are they working? Kind of what I mentioned before about military and after action. Look back at what you did. What did you get right? What didn't work based on whatever reason? And then the phrase is, keep doing what's working. Start doing what you see you missed. But most importantly, if something's not working, stop doing it. So that's where I see my role and the federal government's role. An example, we have now made, in the last few months, tremendous advances in releasing the regulations limiting telehealth, the delivery of medicine like we're talking about today, because we had antiquated rules, regulations. We've eased them up. So if it's working, now what we have to do as a federal government is look at, okay, did we release and ease up on rules and regulations? And have we seen improvements? If that's the case, then let's not put those rules and regulations back into place. Let them disappear. But sometimes we hold on to rules or regulations for the wrong reason. So that's I believe where the federal government needs to focus its efforts here over the next few months, and get back to DC and get to work. Manage the social distancing and all that. We can do that just fine and not put anybody at risk. If it means wearing a mask, okay, I got that. But the point is, personal responsibility on everybody's part goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, do you have anything specific you think for Michigan or the first district that would be, I guess, most important for, I guess, the residents here that you see coming down the road?
Well, I think, it's, and this is probably a generic answer I'd give to most guidance to whether it be parents or young children or young men and women. Number one, life is always going to change somewhat. Think about the weather. The weather changes, and we change our clothes. We talked before about the driving skills in the winter. The acceptance of change. Be aware of your surroundings, your situation. Do all those things that that we've learned in our Bible teachings. Treat others, as you would like to be treated. Dignity, respect. Be a caring individual, but be aware of what's going on. And we have a rule in our office that bad news doesn't get better with time. So if something bad is potentially happening, say something to somebody, whether it's your teacher, whether it's your parents, or whatever it is. Just say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what's changed. This doesn't seem right to me. The more we talk and the more we dialogue, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's on video like this, or on our phones, or on our texts. And by the way, if you're together with your friends, put down your phones, put down your screens, and actually look each other in the eye and talk to one another. It's a skill that's going to take you a long way in life if you can do that. Yeah,
and that's what some of the conversation I've had with some people with the time we're in right now, that a lot of it is videoing like this. What's that long-term effect on kids right now? If they're used to videoing or just texting, that might be how they're going to want to communicate to their parents in the future, when parents would be like, no, come to my house, be with me, instead of getting used to something like this too. But yeah, I fully agree. I mean, the more we can be together, face-to-face relationship, the more we're going to benefit from that.
Well, all my grandkids have caught their first fish off of our dock. It's a little tough to do that via video, no matter how much you might like to do it. And all of them, with the exception of maybe one, as I think do a roll call here, I've taught each of them how to build a fire outside and inside too as well. But those are the kind of things, those togetherness things that are learning at all levels. And the joy of catching a fish, how big or small, is great. It brings smiles to everybody's face. And you do two things with fish. Number one, if they're not the right fish or not big enough or whatever, you humanely as possible get that hook out of them so you don't injure them and throw them back in the water so they can live. Or if they're big enough and it's time to have fish for dinner, by golly, you clean them and eat them. It tastes pretty good.
Yeah, I bet. So what's your biggest catch then? Telling the truth here, right?
Oh yeah, it's so big. Actually the biggest fish I ever caught, I was probably about 12 years old, and it was about a 42-inch northern pike.
Oh wow. Where was that at?
Pardon me?
Where was that at?
It was actually it was a little lake in the lake was Fish Lake, appropriate name for a lake, right? just south of Prior Lake, Minnesota, a little town called Lydia.
Okay. Minnesota, great place to be then, right?
Yep. And by the way, that was the biggest fish. The first fish I ever caught was with my Uncle Leonard, and that was in the Black River over just next to Ironwood. Beautiful. Okay. The Black River feeds into Lake Superior. It's great little fishing spot.
I want to invite anybody who is watching on Facebook right now to pop in the comment section and ask any questions. But Congressman, I did have one question beforehand that did come to me, and looking kind of a little more into the future for you, wondering how many terms are you looking to stay, and any idea on who might run for your seat when you decide not to run again. So you have any thoughts and perspective on that?
Let's start with the last question first.
Yeah.
4.5 years ago, no one in the first district knew Jack Bergman. And when I decided to run, literally, my wife and I made the decision within a 30-day time frame after Dr. Benishek, who was the representative at the time, announced his retirement. So I said to my wife, after looking at possibilities, well, how could I serve again? I said, would you support me if I ran? And she says, oh, sure, go ahead. Who's going to vote for you? Nobody knows you. And she just figured I'd get out of her hair for about 3 months, go out and campaign and come back, and then we get on with life. All right, well, we saw how that turned out. Okay, so fast forward. I have no clue who's going to run because nobody had a clue I was going to run, including me. So we're afraid. That's the beauty of our country. Anybody. You have to be 25 years old, a citizen of the country for 7 years, and here's a little bit. You only have to be a resident of the state in which you run. So I could live in Lansing. I could live in Kalamazoo and still legally run for the first district, which neither of those cities are in it. So the point is, now that I've been here, it's my second term. I see how things work. And this is a bit of, if you will, breaking news for a lot of your constituents. I'm running for re-election, of course, in November. But this year, I am also running a campaign within a campaign because I serve on Veterans Affairs Committee and Armed Services Committee. And my passion is veterans, okay? Has been, always will be. And the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, Dr. Phil Rowe, when I first got here, great guy from Northeast Tennessee, has decided not to run for re-election. So I'm going to run, again, for re-election for the first district, but also among my peers to be elected as the, hopefully, committee chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. And we as Republicans are limited to 3 terms as a committee chairman.
Okay.
So that would put me at 10 years, 5 terms. So that would be, I believe, 10 years here will be just fine. Start looking in, I guess, what is that, 2026? Since I ran in 16, start looking for somebody to replace me in 2026.
We'll put it on the calendar. I'll send you a reminder then.
Yeah, and it's when we talk about our plan, just remember, it's God's plan.
Yeah.
And right now, my wife and I are blessed, and our families are blessed with good health, and everybody's doing their job, whether it's the kids working, the grandkids going to school. It's we're blessed, and we're blessed by God.
Yeah. Each of our stories is part of a much bigger story that we're all in, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you bet. Well, Congressman Bergman, again, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day today. I know you have things to get to, but appreciate taking this half hour with us. And again, appreciate you being willing to meet with our freshman students as they make trips over there. So we'll look forward to that again in the coming school year. Any other final thoughts you want to have as a conversation?
Just one, and that's the opportunity that if you want, don't wait for the students to come to DC. If there's an opportunity and you all desire when we can get together face to face in Traverse City, let's plan that. I'd love to see all of dialogue and maybe outside, whether it's winter or summer, that we can do whatever you want to do. But the invitation is always open to all of you at TC Christian.
Great. Love it. Appreciate it. We'll be in touch then.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and be on the lookout for our next video segment to this series as we continue to just gain perspective and different people's lives on kind of what's going on right now. So thanks again for watching, and have a great rest of your day.